Welcome back to the channel, you guys. It is your host, Justin here. Super excited to be bringing you guys yet again another mock draft on this channel. This is my 2.0 today. If you guys haven't already, go ahead, check out the 1.0. Watch that one first. Give it a like. Give me a subscribe. Come here. Watch this one. We're really just going to get right into it. I'm going to try my best and not to repeat picks. The first pick will be the same, spoiler alert, but it's just super hard to see the Hawks going anywhere else with it. So yeah, like I said, we're going to, switch it up today. I'm not going to do trades in this one, but I am kind of thinking for my 3.0, I will implement just a couple of trades, because there are some scenarios where I could see a couple of teams, making moves, moving some guys, moving up, moving down and whatnot. So yeah, without further ado, we'll really just get right into it. Atlanta won the lottery, obviously. Um, the consensus number one overall pick is Alex Sarr here, which I would agree with. I think he comes into the league and plays the center position, especially for the Hawks. Obviously, they do have guys like Clint Capella, like Onyeka Okongwu, but in reality, I feel like you could move on from one of those guys. And I think that Alex Sarr kind of comes in and really plays to the strengths of a Trae Young, of a DeJounte Murray. It kind of depends, like I said in my last video, what they're going to do with them guys. Do they move on from them? Do they keep them? Do they do, a soft restart? Do they just rebuild altogether around Sarr? So it's kind of hard to say. I think Alex Sarr comes in and is an anchor for a defense right away. The thing is, you are going to have to develop his offensive game a little bit. But in reality, I feel like, you could put him in the dunker spot. You can use him in the pick and roll as the roll man. And, he could really excel, in a role like that. And especially next to a point guard like Trae Young, where he can feed him the ball, set him screens, get open looks and whatnot. I really do enjoy this fit here. So we're going to go with Alex Sarr here with the first overall pick at 2. It gets a little tricky here. I think that Washington could do a couple different things. Said in my last video, I think they still got, a pretty nice underrated young core. I really like Denny Avgia. Bilal Coulibaly looked, good in the minutes that he played last year. Obviously, coming from overseas and stuff, he is going to take just a little bit of time to develop. Johnny Davis is a guy that really hasn't gotten his stride going quite yet. So, you can maybe even package him and, a guy like Corey Kispert and really just see, maybe what you can get for them guys, especially, when you got guys like Jordan Poole and Kyle Kuzma on your roster that are expendable, that teams would be interested in my opinion. It makes this pick tough. Do you go with a Reed Shepard? Matas Buzelis has all the potential in the world. Same thing with Ron Holland. Do you play it safe? Do you take Stephon Castle? Last video, I had them taking Rob Dillingham just from sheer upside. But I could see him going Ricochet. But a guy that I haven't talked about yet is Donovan Clingan. I really love Clingan's game. I think he brings so much to the table, especially just as a screener, which is a very underrated, aspect in today's game. I'd say, you hear a guy's a good screener, and you may dismiss that, or but it's such an underrated thing in today's offense that just gets overlooked. When a guy can just come in and be the best screen setter on the floor at all times, especially when you take into account Clingan's offensive and defensive potential, excuse me. I think he's going to come into the league and really just light it up on defense right away. I would not be surprised if, down the road, middle of his career, he's got a couple defensive player of the years under his belt. He's a guy that's coming in with size already. You see guys like Alex Sarr, you see other guys, like an Evan Mobley, excuse me, these center prospects that come into the league and they don't have meat on their bones. Well, Clingan has that. He can bang down there. He can guard an Anthony Davis. He can guard a Alex Sarr. He can guard these guys because he has that extra bulk and because he has that muscle on him already. He's going to come in, be an anchor for a defense right away. The offensive ability is there. You just have to get him into the right spot. I really like Donovan Clingan. We're gonna respect him here because it seems like the league really likes Clingan. There's a lot of reports out there that Memphis wants to trade up, that Chicago wants to trade up. So there's a whole lot of buzz going on with Clingan right now, and I wouldn't be too surprised if he went number 1 as well. So we're gonna give him his flowers here in this mock draft, and we're gonna have him go number 2 to the Washington Wizards. Next up is the Houston Rockets, and they're in a very Very interesting position here. They got a couple different things that they could look for, in my opinion. And this is a team that is on an upward trajectory, you know, to doing really great things. They already have a very nice young core with a Jalen Green, with a Jabari Smith. Fred VanVleet is like a great piece, in my opinion. If you want to shuffle a guy, behind him, and then 2-3 years down the line, get VanVleet out of there, get the new guy in there, let VanVleet, um, coach him up and show the ways of the NBA. Amen Thompson is an awesome young piece, especially, when you pair him with Alperen Sengun. And it kind of, this pick kind of plays into, what do you do with Amen Thompson? Do you run him at the one? Do you play him at the wing? I feel like he did, pretty good at the wing last season. I feel like he could be, your starting one going forward too. Obviously, you have Jalen Green, and you have expendable pieces like a Steven Adams. It's kind of interesting. I'm interested to see. I've seen a couple like a mock trades with Jabari Smith, but I'm just not too sure what they do. Obviously, they have a lot of wings on this team. They have a Cam Whitmore, they have Tari Eason, etc. But a pick that I really like for the Rockets, and it's not Rissershade because, like I said, I feel like they're just so loaded at the wings. And I did take Reed Shepherd last time. A pick that I really like for the Rockets to really help gel this young team and propel them, keep propelling them, to that upward trajectory. Is Stephon Castle. I feel like he brings tremendous defense off rip. You just need to get him shooting a little bit more. Freshman, very very young player. Played more of a wing at UConn, but obviously wants to play point guard in the NBA. So what you can do is you can sit him behind VanVleet for a little bit, roll him in at the point guard, see how Amen does at the point guard position as well. Both of them can play the point guard and the wing. It's kind of cool. You get him in and you have just a super, uber athletic, lengthy team. And you add Castle in here, who's a guy that can come in and just bolster this defense right away. So I really like that for the Rockets. At 4 here, the San Antonio Spurs are in a pretty unique position here. You kind of have to ask, what do they do with the Keldon Johnson? What do they do, with a Devin Vassell? Because obviously this new era with Wemby, you have to build around him. You have to find the right pieces around him. A guy that I really like for the Spurs is Reed Shepherd, but we're going to go in a different direction today just because I'm not sure if Rissershade falls this far. I really do like Rissershade's game. He's just got a capped ceiling, which I don't love using that term because a lot of people use that term for Dalton Connect, and I don't see it. I don't see how Dalton Connect has a capped ceiling, and I'm not taking him here at 4. I'm just getting off. But with the Spurs here at 4, it's very interesting. They can go an upside pick, with a guy like a Ron Holland, with a Matas Buzelis. Do they go and focus on scoring with Rob Dillingham, or do they go with a guy like Zachary Rissershade? I think I'm going to have them go with Rissershade here. Last mock draft, they had them taking Topic, but Topic is dealing with a partially torn ACL, they're saying now, which is very interesting, and I'm wondering if that is going to tank his draft stock in real life. Spoiler alert, in this mock draft, I will have him falling just a little bit, just to mix it up a little bit and do something a little bit different. But I like the fit of Rissershade here. I really do. I feel like this is a guy that's going to come in and be, a pretty good scorer right off rip. And if you can get that next to Wembanyama, then that'd be awesome. Obviously you have Wembanyama down low. You can put him in high pick and roll situations up top. He's a guy that can just do quite a bit of stuff. So Rissershade, putting him in here, it's a guy that's going to come be able to shoot the ball right away. It'll be a good compliment to Wembanyama. Obviously, at 8, maybe look to get a point guard in there or something. Not going to say anything quite yet, but I feel like the fall for Zachary Rissershade will fall here, or stop here, at number 4. All right, so with my Pistons on the clock here at number 5, in my opinion here, really, there is only a couple of options that they can go. As you can see, Matas Buzelis is still on the board. A guy like Reed Shepherd still on the board. On the lower end of possibility, Rob Dillingham still on the board, which I don't find him to be quite the best option for us here. At number 5, Dalton Connects obviously here, Tijon Saloon, etc. And Ron Holland's a guy that I'm actually kind of intrigued by. The only thing is obviously the shooting. When you look at a team that is as bad as the Pistons were last year, and just the lack of shooting around Cade Cunningham is really just, it's inexcusable. Like, to be this bad of a floor spacing team, and obviously to end up with the 5th overall pick really does suck. But it really just is what it is, because the guy that I really like here for the Pistons at number 5, if he somehow was to fall, is Reed Shepherd. I get it, the fit with Jaden Ivey and Cade Cunningham, but at the same time, when you're this bad and you have the 5th overall pick, such a high pick in the draft, you cannot worry about fit at all. You really just have to take the best talent available, the best guy on the board, and in my opinion, that's definitely Reed Shepherd. And I think that a lot of experts and people that put these mock drafts out for mass media production companies would agree that Reed Shepherd is no doubt the best player on the board at this moment for the Pistons. He brings shooting, he brings defense, playmaking. The guy can really do it all. I think he shot like 50-something% from 3 this season. Obviously, great field goal percentage, just super, super efficient. And if he is here at 5 for the Pistons, I think it should be a no-brainer. You can experiment with some stuff, Cade at the 3, and then you could put Reed at the 1, even Ivy at the 2. You can bring Reed off the bench for a minute and see how Ivy has kind of grown, to his role in year 3 next to Cade and whatnot. But just with the injuries to both of them and really just not being able, it seems like, to see them on the floor at the same time kind of sucks. And at this point, you really just got to go ahead and get the best player on the board, and that's Reed Shepherd. So that's where I'm going for my Pistons here at number 5. At 6 here, the Charlotte Hornets are in a unique position here. Another team that I feel like will swing for an upside pick. A guy that I really like for them is Matas Buzelis. Obviously, if Stephon Castle was here, I would also like him to, kind of play alongside LaMelo. They obviously have LaMelo. Miles Bridges is a free agent now, and Brandon Miller. And Brandon Miller is just an awesome piece to put next to LaMelo, just a bona fide scorer. So he really is, a very nice piece next to LaMelo. I had them taking Ron Holland last go around. This time, I think I'm going to have them select Matas Buzelis. I just feel like they're in need for a high upside guy, a guy that can run the rim. He can pretty much play from the 2 to the 4. He's a guy that, when you look at his tape, sometimes he's got the ball in his hands. Sometimes he's the roll man. He's very, very versatile, which is awesome to see. You just got to hope that shot starts to fall, because he has everything else. The defense is there right away. The length, the speed, the height, the ball handling for a guy his size is truly awesome. And if he can put it all together, he's going to be a very awesome talent. And I think he would actually fit in pretty well here with Charlotte. They can run him at the 2 next to LaMelo. And yeah, I like that pick there. So let's go with Matas Buzelis there at number 6. At 7 here, the Portland Trailblazers. This is a team that is like super hard to mock for. You never know like what they're truly going to do. Obviously, in the last mock draft, I said that they were kind of log jammed at the point guard position, which is kind of true. But at the same time, if they were to move on from a guy like Anthony Simons, I don't think that they're going to give up on Scoot quite yet. But they got Simons, they got Shaden Sharp, and they got Scoot. And I do think that Sharp plays better as a 2 rather than a 3. But, they've experimented with that just a little bit. Obviously, they still got a guy like Jeremy Grant on the roster who, can be expendable, in my opinion, if you truly want to make him. Same thing with DeAndre Ayton. I don't think DeAndre Ayton's there to stay for too much longer. If Donovan Clingan was still on the board, that would probably be my pick. But right now, he's not. He went number 2 last mock draft. That's actually what I had them do. But a guy that I like here for them, and who I feel like the front office there in Portland would really like, just based off of the type of players that they've drafted within the previous years: Simons, Sharp, Scoot. are guys that kind of have a less traditional path to the NBA. I'm talking G League. Obviously, the thing with Shaden Sharp when he went to Kentucky, didn't play, was still on the roster, but then they like ran back the high school tape and whatnot. You know what I mean? So, and then the same thing with Simons as well. Not going the college route. But I think Ron Holland just fits in right away for what they're trying to build. He's also a guy that's going to come in and bolster their defense right away. The Blazers have one of the worst defenses in the NBA. So I do think that Holland could come in right away, help them out on that side. And he's a guy that's just uber athletic. I don't see him falling out of the lottery like they're saying. I'm certain that that's smoke. But I mean, we'll see. I just don't see it. I think one team in the lottery is going to fall in love with this guy and end up taking him here. And you got to love the athleticism and just the size that he got and just that he has and just the raw talent. So we're going to go with Ron Holland here at number 7. At 8 here, the Spurs. The Spurs are in a very interesting position themselves. Obviously, as I mentioned earlier, the Wembanyama stuff, rebuilding around him. What's the team that they really want to solidify around him. And I had them take Research there at number 4, a high-value wing that can come in right away, shoot the ball. But at 8, it's interesting. Do they double up on wings and take Connect? Obviously, the Topic stuff. I would have them select Topic, but they are saying that he does have a bit of a torn ACL. It's a partial tear in his ACL, and that's very scary for teams, especially for a team like the Spurs that doesn't really have. I mean, they have the time to wait for a guy, but next year, I mean, I would be, I would be expecting the Spurs to make a play-in run. They want to be in more of the higher tier teams in the West next year. They don't want to be like how they are now, kind of just mediocre, especially when you got a guy like Wemby. He's not going to want to wait to win. He's going to want to start winning basketball games a couple years down the line, start winning championships and whatnot. And it starts in the draft, building those teams and, molding them into championship teams. So a guy that I really like here for the Spurs is actually Rob Dillingham. Apparently, he really prefers the Spurs. He's a guy that is getting a lot of hate. Just coming into this draft. And I mean, I get it with the size and the defense, but I do think that he's just a great scorer. I mean, he can shoot the basketball, probably the best in this class, if not top 2. It's probably him and Reed and Connect for the top 3 best shooters in the draft. So you got to love that when a guy can just come in and, shoot the lights out right away. He's a good facilitator, very quick, and a guy that I could really see working next to Wemby. You got a high screen and roll man, and Dillingham can, put the ball in the right place and, pop the 3 if he really needs to. And that's what it comes down to. Do I see him becoming this superstar guard in the league? That's a can't miss prospect. Maybe not. But at the same time, if you have the right team behind him, and, you got a guy like Wemby to kind of hide his, defensive problems, I guess you could say, then I do think he's a good pick. So we're going to go with Dillingham here at number 8. At 9 here, the Memphis Grizzlies are another team that's in kind of an interesting position here. I really like, what they have here with Ja Morant, Desmond Bane, obviously guys like Marcus Smart, Jaren Jackson. They got a very nice roster, and they're a team that, again, I don't see being this bad next year. I think that the Ja Morant suspension just really hurt them, and they're a team that, is just going to come in next year hungry, and they're not going to skip a beat next year. They're ready to go, I think. They got all the pieces that they could really need to make a deep run in the playoffs like we've seen the past couple of years. This isn't anything new that I'm saying. But, yeah, the pick of G.G. Jackson last year was phenomenal. Zaire Williams has been a little bit of a disappointment, but at the same time, you hit some, you miss some. So it's interesting here. Last mock draft, I gave them Connect, but I'm actually not going to do that just because I'd like to switch it up a little bit. A guy that I like for the Grizzlies is actually Cody Williams. I feel like he could play the 3 as well if you really needed him to. He's a guy that's going to come in and be a scorer right away, and that's kind of what they need. They need another scorer next to Ja. Obviously, Jaren Jackson's a great defender, but they kind of need that second scoring option that can just go out and get them a bucket when they need to. He's got high defensive potential, obviously very lengthy, decent shot creator. It's something that he's got to work on. But at the same time, I think he's going to come in and be a fine defender right away. And a guy that I do think is going to fit in, right next to Ja right away. And then obviously you got Marcus Smart, the backup point guard position. Derrick Rose is there too. So, they got a couple pieces here, and they do have pieces as well to move up in the draft. I would love for them to get Donovan Clingan. I think that would be awesome if they can go up and get Clingan. That'd just be the perfect piece right next to Jaren Jackson. Be one of the scariest front courts in the NBA, defensively. So, well, with them sticking and picking here at 9, I'm going to have them take Cody Williams. At 10 here, the Utah Jazz. See, this is an interesting position as well because Nikola Topic, in my opinion, is definitely the best player on the board at this point. But the only thing is you already have a Colin Sexton, and you do have a Keontae George as well. But I will say Keontae George, to me, is more of a two-guard. I know that they played him a lot at the point guard position last year, but I just feel like with his inefficiency from the field and from with the outside shot, I don't think that, it's definitely a possibility. And like I said, I really like his game, but I think he's more suited to be a 2. And then with Sexton, Sexton's more of a backup 2, in my opinion, a backup 1. And I love Sexton too. But it's more just about finding the right pieces that gel together on this team. John Collins is a nice piece. Lauri Markkanen is a fringe all-star. And then, you got guys that are nice, complementary pieces like a Walker Kessler is one of the, better center defenders in the league. Had an off year last year, but still. So it's interesting. I don't know if they go with a guy like Connect just because they took a guy like Taylor Hendricks last year. So what I'm actually going to have them do is the fall of Nikola Topic is going to stop here. I'm going to have them go with Nikola Topic here out of Serbia. I do think that he can come in and be their franchise point guard right away. He's got all the size and all of the physical requirements that it takes to be a great point guard in today's NBA. Great playmaker, solid enough defender. Just got to get a little bit more on the offensive end, in my opinion, just in terms of shot creation and whatnot. But when you talk about a traditional point guard, I think he's probably the best traditional point guard in the draft this year when it just comes to straight up playmaking and pick and roll play. So I like this fit here for the Jazz. And they're building a nice young little team here, especially, they get Keontae George more comfortable at the 2. You play Topic at the 1. So we're going to go with that here for the Jazz at number 10. At 11 here, the Bulls, excuse me. I was going to say Bears. I got football on my mind. The NBA Finals were actually just yesterday, so now I'm thinking NFL all of a sudden. But the Bulls here, they're another team that's just in a very weird position. Patrick Williams is a free agent. DeMar DeRozan is as well. What do they do with Zach LaVine? Lonzo Ball is coming off a huge injury. So they're just kind of stuck in purgatory. And when you have the 11th pick, it's tough. It really is tough because I don't see them taking a point guard, to be honest. I don't know if they take a shooting guard. They could, no doubt they could take a shooting guard. I don't think that they take another point guard, especially like a true point guard when you already have a guy like Lonzo Ball, Kobe White, Alex Caruso's obviously still on the team. Ayo Dosunmu's still on the team. Do they make Alex Caruso expendable? Do they trade the pick? Do they trade up, for a Clingan? So it's very hard to pick for them, but I'm going to have them take Tajon Saloon here. More of a project pick, which I actually think would really suit their franchise well at this point. They need a guy to kind of look forward to in terms of like a youth movement, if that makes sense. And they need a guy to kind of be able to develop him. And like I said, just kind of look forward to him, in the future. I think Tajon Saloon is a very intriguing prospect. The jumper looks really nice. He handles the ball pretty well, for a 6'10" guy. He's lengthy. He's kind of the prototype, overseas length, can shoot a little bit, taller, skinnier, type of guy. But I do. I like his game. I like his finishing. He's got defensive potential, through the roof, and it really is. It's a high upside pick, but it is something right now that I do think that the Bulls, should move forward with. I don't really like the idea of them taking a Dalton Connect and trying to keep this core together. I think it's kind of, more time to blow it up, keep a couple of your pieces. You can keep Alonzo, you can keep a Kobe White, and I would assume but guys like Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan, you got to kind of just figure out a way to get off of that if you could. And I think that Tajon Saloon would be a great start to that. At 12 here, OKC. Also a team that is in an interesting position in terms of, do they take an upside pick or do they take a guy that's, more solidified? In my opinion, what I would do if I was OKC would be to take a guy a little bit more solidified. I've heard the Jared McCain, name get thrown around in there a little bit. Even a Zach Edey as a backup big man, which I don't hate that. I really don't. Well, when you look at their roster here, they're a team that, Gordon Hayward's gone, and he was a non-factor pretty much all season. I mean, he was horrible, especially in the playoffs. And Josh Giddey really, he just doesn't mesh well with this team. He doesn't mesh well with Shea, at this point. The same thing with J-Dub, and Usman Dang has kind of just been a disappointment at this point. Chet's been awesome. Same thing with Shea, same thing with J-Dub. Dort's cool too, but a guy that I really like for the OKC Thunder is Dalton Connect. I think that they need a guy that can come in, play the three, knock down big shots, shoot the three ball. And when I think of a more perfect fit for the Thunder, I can't think of any, other fit than a Dalton Connect. Like I said, I don't understand why we put, a cap ceiling on guys just because they're juniors and seniors. I mean, he's 22 years old. He's 2 years younger, 3 years younger than some of the guys that are in this draft class. Like, I get it. It might be 2 to 3 NBA seasons, I guess, 1 to 2 to 3. Less, in his career, but it just doesn't matter to me. You look at the numbers and you know that this guy is going to be good right away, and he's going to be able to come in and play for a playoff team like the Thunder and show out and be a part of that core to help them win playoff games. In my opinion, this is the best fit in the draft. If I'm the OKC Thunder and Connect's there at 9, I would even consider trading up for him and getting him on the roster. He's a perfect fit next to Shea. Perfect fit next to J-Dub, a guy that's going to play his role. He's not going to do too much. He's going to come in, score the ball, and that's what he needs to do. So I like the Dalton Connect fit, and then they can look for a backup big man and whatnot in free agency. Team here, the Kings are another team that have a lot of needs that need to be met in this free agency. You got guys like Malik Monk. What do they do with Kevin Huerter? They got still a nice young core there, in terms of Fox, with the Keegan Murray. Obviously, Sabonis is one of the best players in the NBA, I'd say. Davion Mitchell really hasn't worked out too much for them. They got guys like Chris Duarte that had, pretty solid rookie seasons. So I look across the board here, and I want to say I gave them Jacoby Walter last mock draft, so I am going to switch it up today. I do like a guy like Devin Carter quite a bit. It's just that he reminds me of a Davion Mitchell so much. Similar play styles, great defender, came into the league, couldn't really shoot the ball that well. Smaller point guard with clamps, but don't think that really meshes well with the Kings really need. Honestly, the guy that I really like for the Kings is Jared McCain. I think he's going to come in right away and, be a great shooter off rip. 19 years old, not the best ball handler in the world, but when you got a guy like De'Aaron Fox in front of him who can handle, the heavier workload in terms of handling the ball and in terms of playmaking and whatnot. That's not to say that Jared McCain doesn't have that, because he does. He can play make and he can share the ball and handle the ball, but it's just not really, his upper echelon of strength. So he's going to come in, be able to shoot the ball right away, especially, on this Kings team where he doesn't have to have the bulk of the workload in terms of handling the ball, as I said, so he can kind of lay back, knock down some threes. Worst comes to worst, I think that Jared McCain is an above average 3-point shooter and an above average scorer in this league. So I really like Jared McCain. I think he's like almost becoming underrated in terms of where he's going in some of these mock drafts here. But I do feel like on draft night he's going to surprise a lot of people and go a lot higher than people are projecting. I could see, you know, 11 to 14, maybe even something like a 9 to 14, and go in that range there. So I really like Jared McCain, and we're going to select him here for the Kings at number 13. At 14, it's very interesting with what the Trailblazers do. Earlier, I had them select Ron Holland out of the G League Ignite, so they kind of, stuck to that draft philosophy that they usually do, and take guys that are more projects, less polished, but with immense potential. And when I look at the board here, I really feel like at this point, with the 14th overall pick and with the team that they are building now, with a whole bunch of, nice young guys that really do gel very well together, I feel like they could kind of go with someone who's maybe a little bit more solidified within their, collegiate career and whatnot. A guy like Devin Carter, Jacoby Walter wouldn't be a bad option, obviously. They have a guy like Scoot, Anthony Simons, Shaden Sharp. I feel like Shaden Sharp is, suited to play the three as well, and Scoot can really play the one or the two. Simons, to me, is more of a shooting guard than a point guard, but, they can really mix and match. Just looking at the board here, it's very hard to see, what the Blazers are going to do, though. Like, I'll be honest, it's very hard. Do they take a Tristan da Silva, a guy who's kind of already solidified, who's going to come in, be able to, pretty much teach these young guys, not teach them, but come in and gel with them right away in terms of being able to knock down big time shots, be able to play, a little bit of defense, because this team does need defense, and that is why I selected Holland there at number 7 as well. I see a guy like Isaiah Collier, and I really like that. I just don't know how well he really gels with this team, and I would like to get him in one of these mock drafts in the lottery because I do really like Isaiah Collier. So it's kind of like, do I just select him now? I just don't know if he really meshes well with, the core that they've already got. I like Zach Edey too as an anchor for a defense. I know a lot of people don't like Zach Edey at all, and it's probably just because of his on-court antics. But I mean, the guy can play ball. It's not discredit him with that. Johnny Furphy is another guy that I really like, and he honestly might be the pick here out of Kansas. He can shoot the ball real well, can play defense, taller shooting guard, can play the small forward as well. I feel like he would fit in, pretty well with this team. Man, it's tough, man. Like, do I go with a Johnny Furphy? Do I go with a Kyle Filipowski who can play the power forward position and eventually, back up Jeremy Grant, and then eventually, if you move on from Jeremy Grant, Filipowski can come in, take over for him and whatnot. So this team needs some change, I think. They need to shuffle a couple of guys around. I don't think Simons is here for the long run. I don't think Jeremy Grant's here for the long run. I don't think DeAndre Ayton's here for the long run. I think that they're going to shuffle around some pieces. I think Scoot and Shaden Sharp are pretty much untouchable, and everyone else is free reign. If you get a certain piece for a Brogdon, for a Robert Williams, for whatever, for a Simons and whatnot, then you may just have to pull the trigger. And I've kind of talked myself into selecting Johnny Furphy here at number 14. It's the guy that I haven't had go in the lottery yet. I haven't even mocked him on my lottery when I just do, mine on the side. If I'm just chilling, watching playoff basketball, whatever, I'll just knock one out, whatever. But I'll have Furphy go here just to switch it up a little bit, like I said. And it does look like that we have it not on only lottery, so we'll just scroll down here. This is the mock draft here. Move the face cam so you guys can see. Yeah, as you can see, I really like this mock draft. I switched it up a little bit here. I think we only had, I want to say that we only had one repeated pick from last mock draft, and that was Sar going number 1. And even in the next mock draft, we can switch it up. We can do something different and maybe have a guy like Kling and maybe have a guy like Rich Richey go number 1. But the Hawks taking Sar at 1. Wizards go Kling in. Rockets get Castle. I do feel like he really does mesh well with that young team there. Spurs pair Ricochet With Wembanyama, the Pistons get a secondary ball handler to go next to Cade and Reed. Hornets luck out, get Matas and all his potential at 6. Ron Howland goes 7. Dillingham 8. Cody Williams goes to a solidified playoff team in the Grizzlies. Topic falls just a little bit because of his partially torn ACL to the Jazz, but I still really like that fit there, especially beside Keontae George and Colin Sexton. Bulls go ahead, look towards the future, take Tajon Salon, somebody that, they really haven't drafted a guy with, immense, I guess you could say, potential within the last couple of years that they can kind of look forward to. OKC goes more of the solidified player route and snags Dalton Connect there. Kings get a new backcourt mate for De'Aaron Fox and Jared McCain, assuming that Malik Monk does leave. And the Blazers go high upside and Johnny Furphy there at 14. So if you guys enjoyed, go ahead, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. I really appreciate it. I appreciate everyone that watches my videos, man. I'll interact with you guys in the comments and whatnot. So yeah, guys, thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.